Here are 50 things Paper Mario fans hate. Number 1, the series abandoning incentive-based RPG combat. For a lot of fans, this is the root problem that everything else branches off from. Paper Mario didn't just happen to be an RPG, it was one of Nintendo's best RPGs. The original games took turn-based combat and made it accessible, funny, and flexible through systems like badges, partners, and audience interaction. When later entries started moving away from incentive-based turn-based combat, it changed the series. Super Paper Mario did have incentive to battling, but obviously it was not turn-based, and then every game from Sticker Star on has had little incentive to battle. Even a lot of fans of newer games in this series are often not the biggest fan of this. This is something that a lot of Paper Mario fans hate. And number 2 is gonna go right off this. That's just battles feeling completely pointless in Sticker Star, Color Splash, and Origami King. Removing experience completely had massive ripple effects on how the games feel to play. In the earlier entries, every battle mattered, you were growing stronger, unlocking new strategies, and pushing Mario forward. In Sticker Star and later games, you often just want to avoid fights. All they do is just spend resources and take time, like you gain nothing from these. And that's kind of the exact opposite of how an RPG should function. When enemies start feeling like speed bumps instead of challenges, combat just stops being fun and starts being something that you want to just run away from. And yeah, you could say this is the same as number 1, but I feel like they go off of each other. Number 3, Paper Mario Sticker Star. Number 4, the Thousand Year Door's excessive backtracking. Every fan who considers TTYD a near perfect game will openly admit that the backtracking is pretty rough. The problem isn't just that you revisit areas, it's how you revisit them. Many of the game's paths are narrow, linear hallways with little variation, so repeated trips feel identical every time. Running from Rogueport to Petalburg or bouncing between distant locations with no meaningful changes along the way does kill some of the pacing and momentum. On a first playthrough it's definitely tolerable, but on repeat runs it becomes one of the game's most noticeable flaws, especially compared to modern design standards and compared to the remake, which greatly improved upon this. In my video going over the biggest flaw in every Mario RPG, I'd backtracking for the Thousand Year Door. Number 5, how easy Super is. Any fans of this channel know how much I love Super Paper Mario, but there's no getting around just how easy the combat is in this game. Outside of the pit of 100 trials, it's very rare to actually struggle with any part of this game. Before I get to number 6, I just want to say if you're enjoying this video so far, to be sure to subscribe. Number 6, General White's Quest. If there's one moment that universally tested players' patience, it's General White's Quest in the Thousand Year Door. Sending the player across nearly every major area in the game just to locate a single NPC doesn't add challenge or depth, it just kind of feels like padding. There's no new gameplay, no meaningful discoveries, it's just a checklist of places you've already been. It feels especially egregious because it happens late in game, when the momentum should be building towards the finale. This also goes off of backtracking, but this is something more specific. I just want to talk about this quest because it was not my favorite part of this great game. Number 7 is Super Paper Mario Space levels. The space sections are a perfect example of an idea that sounds better than it plays. Low gravity initially feels novel, but it quickly becomes sluggish and awkward. It just makes even simple movement feel slow and tedious. These levels just drag, especially in a game that otherwise relies heavily from platforming from point A to point B and actually going pretty fast considering you don't have to stop and fight. And while the change of scenery is cool, the 2 levels that actually take place fully in space are 2 of my least favorite levels in the game and probably 2 of your least favorite as well. Number 8, Paper Mario's tutorial. For what is a fantastic game, the tutorial is just a slog and takes forever. It's not the worst in the entire Mario RPG series, but it does make replays of this game feel a lot slower. Number 9, dimensional flipping being underutilized. The ability to flip between 2D and 3D is one of the most creative mechanics the series has ever introduced, and that makes its limited use even more frustrating. Early on, the mechanic feels mind-blowing and opens up entirely new ways to think about space and level design, but as the game progresses, it's often reduced to just finding hidden paths or solving fairly basic puzzles. People just kind of expected more complex challenges built around this throughout the game, and I feel like it was just kind of a missed opportunity even though I really do like this system. Number 10, Paper Mario Sticker Star fans who don't understand reality. People are entitled to like Sticker Star, and I have no problem if they do. The issue is when fans of these games are just unwilling to acknowledge objective flaws and then attack fans of the original games for ridiculous reasons. I've seen fans of this game unironically call Sticker Star more of an RPG than the original Paper Mario. I've seen some say the story is better than a lot of Paper Mario games, and these are just illusions. Like, it would be like if I said Super Paper Mario is the most difficult Paper Mario game because it's my favorite. While you can have your own opinions, and your opinions are not wrong, there is some objectivity when looking at game design, and some of these things are just objectively false. Number 11, the removal of meaningful partner characters. One of the defining traits of classic Paper Mario was its partners. Characters like Goombella, Vivian, and Bobbery weren't just combat tools. Even the pixels had some personality, even though they definitely aren't partners either. But these characters had their own history, they had emotional arcs, they felt like living, breathing characters, especially in the Thousand Year Door. When later games reduced partners to temporary helpers or removed them altogether, the series lost a huge part of what made it special. Without partners constantly reacting to the world, towns feel quieter and adventures just feel lonelier. Like, I know there's been some good ones. I know people love Bobby from the Origami King, but he's only there for so long, and he's not a traditional partner. Number 12, NPCs being almost entirely toads. Early Paper Mario games were filled with unique NPCs from all across the Mario universe, each with their own designs, dialogues, and quirks, and a lot of these were toads, but they had unique designs. Over time, that variety slowly collapsed into an army of nearly identical toads. Even when they're given different colors, hats, or mustaches, fans can't help but feel that something was lost. The worlds feel less imaginative, less lived in, and far more artificial when nearly everyone looks the same. I just want to know why anyone thought this was a good idea. And tying into that at number 13 is Nintendo mandates limiting original character design. So as we've learned more about the behind the scenes information, we found out that this wasn't the fault of the developers. There were creative restrictions placed on character design and world building, and that meant fewer original species, fewer unique villains, and just fewer risk overall. Like, you can feel these limitations while playing. Like, these developers probably wanted to do a lot more, like what they did in Super, what they did in the first two games, but the mandates of just having existing Mario characters just didn't make sense when there were so many games that these developers had already made that introduced so many great unique characters. Number 14, paper becoming the entire identity of the series. In the original games, Paper Mario was paper in the same way Wind Waker was cel-shaded. It was an art style, it wasn't like a rulebook. Like, yeah, there were some things, especially in Thousand Year Door, like the paper plane, and some of the other abilities, but these were just small gimmicks. Like, they weren't the central thing, but in recent games, folding, tearing, painting, crafting, it's just overtaken any storytelling and character work, and it just feels like it's the same thing every game, like they're just repeating the same jokes over and over again. Instead of just using this occasionally, like maybe just doing what they did in Thousand Year Door, it's just completely become, look, it's paper, look how funny that is. Number 15 is Origami King teasing the classic Paper Mario formula, but not actually doing it. This one's frustrating because after two games where we got world maps, Origami King went back to a bigger open world, and a lot of people thought maybe that means that there'll be more progression here, maybe it'll be more of a traditional Paper Mario. And while it has some memorable locations, and there are hints of classic Paper Mario here, it just pulls back from being that game. Number 16 is ring battles, and this one is not something everyone hates. I was not a fan of it. I thought they were creative, I understand what they were doing, but after a while, these just became so repetitive, just like the repetitive battles in Color Splash. Like, every time you want a quick fight, it's just these long, tedious puzzle fights that don't even reward you with anything. Like, there's no incentive to battle here, so why even waste your time? Number 17 is going to be the aforementioned Paper Mario Color Splash battles, because these were just the worst. For every single battle, you would just have to select the card, hold it down, swipe it up, do it over and over and over again, and it made this game feel so much longer. Number 18, Chapter 7-3. So Chapter 7 is one of my favorite chapters in Super Paper Mario. I love the design, I love the story progression, but this level, man, like, this had me stranded on it when I was a kid, and as I would constantly get the wrong apple, get lost and not knowing where to go next, and also falling down and needing to climb up the clouds again. Number 19 is Sticker Star's world map. By switching to a level-based world map, Sticker Star removes the sense of traveling through a connected world. Instead of towns flowing naturally into one another, everything feels isolated. There's no feeling of geography, there's no sense of distance, and there's no reason to be emotionally invested into any of these locations. And even unlike Super Paper Mario, which actually had the different chapters feel more connected here because they still had their own stories, it just does not feel like that for Sticker Star. Number 20, backtracking without meaningful rewards. Backtracking itself isn't the problem, it's when there's backtracking without any sort of reward. Like in earlier games, revisiting areas often meant there was new dialogue, maybe some secrets, something that's worthwhile to go back for. But in later entries, returning to old locations rarely offers anything new. Without experience, upgrades, or really anything, it just feels like filler instead of just actual discovery. It makes you not want to go back to anywhere. Number 21, fans of newer games who call fans of older games nostalgia blind. This is nothing new, and I've been seeing it for probably 12 years now. In the mid-2010s, I saw a lot of people who weren't even alive for Super Paper Mario and never played any game before Sticker Star claim how it's the best, and anyone who prefers the old Paper Mario style is just blind to nostalgia, and that since Sticker Star's formula is new, it's therefore better. None of these people were probably born around like 2008, 2010, and at that time they were like 7 years old at the oldest, but now some of them are teenagers or nearly adults, and I've noticed a lot of these fans have grown up to appreciate games like Super and Thousand Year Door, especially with the remake actually letting them play it. However, these fans have been reincarnated as some Origami King fans. Some of these people weren't even alive for Color Splash, and they act like they're leading experts on the series, and anyone who doesn't think Origami King is the best is wrong. You just can't reason with people who act like this. Like, you just have to wait until their brains actually develop and can comprehend dissenting opinions. And also, just to be clear, this isn't about anyone who just prefers Origami King. It's just about people who act a specific way. Like, they're very often young kids, so more often than not they will grow out of it, but it is still annoying to see. Number 22, the 25 move combo puzzle in 5-1 in Super Paper Mario. The developers of this game clearly love trolling because in level 5-1 you have these puzzles that you need to hit in a specific order. Like you have left, center, and right, and it starts off easy where you just have to do 3 moves, but then it goes to 25! If you mess up one time, you need to restart all of this. Number 23, requiring specific items to defeat bosses with little guidance. Boss fights that hinge on having one exact item are some of the most criticized moments in the series. If you don't bring the right thing, the fight becomes either impossible or just unnecessarily drawn out. The design turns preparation into guesswork and just forces backtracking if you guess wrong. Instead of just testing your mastery of the game's systems, these fights test your ability to predict what the developers want, and it's just so unsatisfying. Number 24 is guide characters that interrupt more than they help. Guide characters are meant to support the player, but in several Paper Mario games they do the opposite. Constant interruptions, repeated hints, and unskippable dialogue slow the game down and frustrate players who already understand what they're doing. When guides lack charm or personality, those interruptions just feel even worse. These are often compared to characters from earlier Paper Mario games where you actually didn't mind them talking. I miss characters like Flavio or Scorps who went with you and would sometimes speak, but just had so much charm. Number 25 is painting and confetti busy work. So systems like the Paint Meter and Color Splash, or the Confetti and Origami King, have interesting ideas, but over time they just feel like chores. Instead of enhancing exploration or combat, it's just managing resources, which you're probably never even going to run out of. And it just feels like a distraction, like something that was just added in because the developers want to just give you something extra to do. Number 26, the 1000-Year Door of removing the spin move. The spin move in the original Paper Mario made walking around faster and was overall just fun to use, so why did 1000-Year Door get rid of it? Number 27 is humor being used as a substitute for depth. Paper Mario has always been funny, but humor used to coexist with strong mechanics and emotional storytelling. In later games, jokes often do the heavy lifting, but beneath that is just a very shallow story. People may still laugh, but it doesn't feel the same with the absence of deeper character arcs. Comedy works best when it complements substance, not when it completely replaces it. Number 28 is Super Paper Mario's uneven pacing across chapters. Super Paper Mario tells the strongest story in the Mario series, but it's not perfect across the entire game. Some chapters are tightly written and emotionally engaging, while others drag or feel disconnected. Long stretches of gameplay can slow the narrative right when it should be accelerating, and it can definitely make replays a little less smooth than you'd like, but I don't think this is too big of an issue, but I did see some people say that this was something they really hated. Number 29, platforming that fights against the game's mechanics. Platforming sections sometimes feel misaligned with the game's core mechanics, especially when combined with dimension flipping in Super Paper Mario. For the most part, it's fine, but there's definitely a few parts where it feels like the game is kind of working against you throughout the series, and it can be frustrating. I do think this was a much bigger issue in the Super Mario RPG, though. Number 30, seeing so many incredible ideas that just aren't fully explored. One recurring frustration across the series is just seeing these concepts introduced and then quickly abandoned. Whether it's ring battles, unique combat twists, certain characters, it just feels like a lot of ideas aren't explored to their full potential, and it just makes you feel like there's just so much missing here. Number 31, Sticker Star leaving out a massive mini game. If you played the original 3 Paper Mario games, you remember the 64th quiz show in the original, 65th in T2ID, and the 66th in Super, but then Sticker Star skips this and has a completely new quiz mini game. Now why is that bad? Because it would have been the 67th quiz and would have made Sticker Star slightly funnier 13 years after release, purely for ironic reasons. Number 32, Sticker Star's backtracking. If you thought 1000-Year Door's backtracking was bad, Sticker Star's was worse. Not because it necessarily took longer, but because it was so stupid. You'll get to a point in a level where you need a specific thing to proceed, but it's not like the thing you need is just nearby. It's sometimes in a completely different world and gives you no hint of where to go, so you're wandering around, or more realistically just looking up a guide. 1000-Year Door's backtracking is annoying just because it's a slog. This is annoying because it's just completely directionless. Number 33 is partners being present but mechanically irrelevant. Later games reintroduce companions in name but not in function. They travel with Mario, comment on the story, and sometimes help in scripted moments, but rarely matter in combat or progression. This feels like a hollow compromise compared to what partners actually should be. Number 34, the audience in 1000-Year Door throwing literal explosives without consequences. The audience mechanic is amazing, but let's talk about the logistics here. Random civilians are throwing rocks, mushrooms, and bombs into this arena. Where did they get those? Why are they allowed to do this? And why does nobody question the ethics of an audience that can actively kill combatants mid-fight? Number 35, emotional story beats becoming rarer over time. Early Paper Mario games weren't afraid to slow down and let emotional moments breathe. Characters dealt with loss, identity, personal growth. As the series went on, those moments became less common, replaced by lighter, safer storytelling. The humor is still there like I mentioned before, but it doesn't mean as much when the emotional weight is just gone. Number 36, villains becoming less memorable. The Shadow Queen, Count Bleck, and even 1000-Year Door era Bowser set a very high bar for antagonists. Later villains often rely more on gimmicks than presence. Also, I shouldn't even say villains, because for the most part they're just Bowser. We finally did get a more interesting villain in Origami King, but I don't know, I just feel like King Ollie was lacking something compared to previous villains. Number 37, NPC dialogue becoming more repetitive. One of the quiet strengths of early Paper Mario games was how much unique dialogue NPCs had, even after major story events. In later games, dialogue slipped more quickly, and they just make towns feel static. When characters stop reacting meaningfully to the world, it just becomes harder to be immersed. Number 38, the series feeling like a test lab instead of a flagship franchise. After the first 2 games, we got a great experiment in this series, but then after that, it's just become testing the sticker star formula that the majority of fans don't even want. Like, you have the original Paper Mario format, improved upon 1,000 Year Door, and you have Super Paper Mario, which are 3 critically acclaimed games, and then the 3 games after, which have just been criticized a lot more, and they're just experimenting with that. I don't know why Nintendo just can't return to the series roots. Number 39 is no difficulty options for longtime fans. Paper Mario was always aimed to be accessible, but that doesn't mean it needs to be easy for everyone. Veterans who've played the series for decades often want a harder mode that pushes them to engage deeply with mechanics. Like, without difficulty options, replay value really takes a hit. Like, imagine Super Paper Mario if that had a hard mode. That'd make this game even better. Number 40, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. While this isn't a Paper Mario game, it does feature Paper Mario characters. Which ones, you might be asking? Any unique villains, enemies, fan favorite NPCs or partners? Paper Mario, Peach, Bowser, Bowser Jr., Toads, Koopa Troopas, Goombas, you get the point. What a waste of such a great concept. Number 41, fans feeling ignored for well over a decade now. For a long stretch of time, Paper Mario fans were very clear about what they wanted. Meaningful partners, good story, progression. Instead, each new entry doubled down on moving further away from those requests. That disconnect created frustration, not because fans necessarily hate change, but because it felt like feedback wasn't being heard. When a fan base asks for the same thing for years and gets the opposite, there's gonna be some resentment there. And while I initially said over a decade, Super Paper Mario came out almost 19 years ago now, so it's been almost 20 years. Number 42, and this is gonna be a long one. People who act like Super Paper Mario is just not an RPG at all. This one drives me crazy because this argument almost always comes from the same place. People will confidently call the newer Paper Mario games RPGs, then turn around and say Super Paper Mario isn't an RPG, it's just a platformer. The second someone says that, it's clear they're just defining RPGs as turn-based battles only, which just is not how the genre works. Is Super Paper Mario as deep as an RPG as Paper Mario 64 or the 1,000 Year Door? No, but depth isn't the same thing as identity. Super still has core RPG systems, you earn experience by defeating enemies, you level up, your stats permanently increase. Mario doesn't just improve because the player gets better, he gets stronger numerically, and that is a defining RPG trait. The structure is also unmistakably like an RPG. The story is split into chapters with clear narrative arcs, recurring characters, and it isn't just disconnected platforming levels. Every chapter exists to move the story forward, which again is classic RPG design. There's also a party system, it's just a little different here. You manage multiple playable characters with distinct stats and abilities, and pixels function as an ability loadout that replaces traditional badges and partners. Choosing which character and pixel to use still is party and build management, even if it's very light. And on top of that, the game has RPG style hubs, NPCs, optional dungeons like the Pen 100 Trials, plenty of side content, cooking, collectibles, and backtracking with new abilities. So Super Paper Mario is not a turn-based RPG outside of that one fight later in the game. By calling it not an RPG at all, especially when saying something like Sticker Star is an RPG, is just wrong. A game can be a platformer and an RPG. There's plenty of RPG platformers out there. I'm sure people are still going to argue with me over this, but I think if you actually look at it objectively, it is at least a light RPG. Number 43, the fact that the original and Super Paper Mario have never been remade, especially Super Paper Mario. There's no way to play this on the Switch. Come on, Nintendo, bring this game back. Number 44, the 1,000 Year Door remake arriving extremely late. So the remake is exciting. As of the time I'm recording, a day after Christmas, I actually just got the remake. And when this was first announced, I was really excited about it. Like, I played the original, looking for an excuse to get into it at some point again. But it took 20 years for this remake, and that wouldn't be so bad if there was ways to play it. There's been no GameCube support until the Switch 2, so the Wii U and Switch generations, there was just no way to play this game. And if you want to buy a copy of this, it's not ridiculously expensive, but it's more than you'd like to pay for a 20-year-old game. And it means you either have to hook up your GameCube or your original Wii, which once again is not that big of a deal, but it's definitely a little more inconvenient. But this is something that fans used to hate because of course we do have the remake now. Number 45, every new entry resetting progress instead of building on it. It seems like each modern Paper Mario game tends to start from scratch and get rid of things that work. Like, we went from Sticker Star to Color Splash, which wasn't a huge upgrade, but at least Color Splash had some experience, and then Origami King got rid of that, and I just don't get it. Finally starting to move in the right direction and then just erase that progress. I will say though, though that they have at least improved other things. Number 46, the fact that Paper Mario Sticker Star was originally supposed to be more like a traditional Paper Mario game, but then abandoned that. Like, you can even see in old screenshots and trailers that this game was supposed to be a lot different. Number 47, humor overshadowing consequence. Paper Mario is still funny, but it feels like jokes often replace meaningful stakes. Earlier games balanced humor with seriousness, allowing for more emotional moments to land harder. When everything is played for laughs, it just becomes harder to feel tension or investment. And I know there are still serious moments, but they feel far between. Number 48, knowing the potential is still there. Modern Paper Mario games still show some flashes. They still have some witty writing, great music, and the presentation is still fantastic. The series clearly can deliver everything fans want, it just chooses not to fully commit. Number 49, when people prefer a different game to you. So this is something Paper Mario fans tend to hate. I've been called all kinds of names in the book for liking Super Paper Mario, and I've seen the same thing for fans of every game, even Thousand Year Door. Just like what game you like, and don't attack someone for having a different preference on a video game than you, because it says a lot more about you than them. Discussing why you like a game or why you dislike a game is totally fine, but when you say that someone is just wrong for liking a different game, or you start calling them names, you're taking video games way too seriously. And number 50, knowing how good the series could be because it already was. I kind of talked about this at 48, but this is the core of every complaint. It's not like people are imagining a hypothetical perfect game, it's because we already played it. Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door is maybe one of the best RPGs of all time. Super Paper Mario is one of the best platformer RPGs of all time. The original Paper Mario, some people prefer that to Thousand Year Door because that was still a fantastic game. And it's not like they've attempted to do any of this, because these formulas have never been followed up, so it's not like they tried and failed, they just haven't tried at all. And that's the video. Those are 50 things that Paper Mario fans hate. Like I said in the intro, you're not gonna hate all 50 of these things most likely. There's probably gonna be someone commenting saying, I don't hate some of these things, so this video is wrong. And it's impossible to choose 50 things every single Paper Mario fan hates. But I try to go over things that I've seen a lot of talk about, things that I personally don't like. Some of these things aren't exactly hates, just things I dislike. But let me know in the comments, like, do you agree with what I said? Are there other things you think I should have included? And be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed and join my Discord. Thank you for watching Domainy, and I'll see you next time.